Permaculture is usually shown with food forests, acres of land, chickens, ponds, compost systems, and these beautiful established gardens that look like they've been there forever. But what happens if you don't have land? What if you have a patio, or a balcony, or a rental, or a handful of containers and a deep desire to grow something useful? That's the question I'm testing this season. Can permaculture work in a small patio garden? Not as a perfect homestead, but as a way of thinking. Because I don't have a backyard, I have containers, grow bags, herbs, vegetables, flowers, houseplants, and a lot of curiosity. And a patio that I'm trying to turn into something more alive. I think permaculture can feel really intimidating when you're first learning about it. A lot of the examples we see are large scale. There's land, mature trees, water systems, animals, compost piles, and years of design already in motion. And I love that. I want that one day. But right now, that is not my reality. My reality is a small patio, a lot of containers, a limited budget, limited square footage, and a garden that has to fit into my actual life. So instead of asking, can I create a perfect permaculture system? I'm asking a better beginner question. What parts of permaculture can help me make better decisions in the space I actually have? At its simplest, permaculture is a design approach that asks us to work with natural systems instead of constantly fighting against them. It's not just about what you plant, it's about relationships, like how water moves through a space or sunlight changes during the day, how plants support each other, and how soil gets fed, how waste can become a resource, how insects, birds, microbes, plants, and people all fit into the same living system. And that's what I love about it. Permaculture is not just asking, how do I grow this tomato? It's asking, what does this tomato need? What can support it? What problems might show up? How can I design the space so I'm not constantly reacting and in panic mode? Which, as someone who has absolutely panic watered a plant before, this feels personally important. The misconception I want to challenge is that small space gardening is somehow less meaningful. Like, if you don't have land, or at the very least, a legit fenced backyard, you can't grow to your potential. But container gardening has lots of potential. It just means the system is smaller and more concentrated and sometimes a little less forgiving. In a container garden, water matters a lot. Soil structure matters a lot. Sun exposure matters. Spacing, airflow, drainage, and plant selection all matter because there's less room for error. So, in some ways, a small garden forces you to become a better observer. And observation is one of the first permaculture principles. Before you design, before you buy, before you plant everything everywhere, because spring made you emotionally vulnerable, you observe. So the first permaculture idea I'm applying is observe and interact. Before I treat this patio like a blank canvas, I need to treat it like a living space with patterns. Where does the sun hit first? Which spots stay shaded? Where does the wind come through? Which containers dry out fastest? Where do I naturally walk? Where do I actually want to sit? Where can I put plants so I'll remember to care for them? Because that last one is a little underrated. A garden design that looks good but doesn't fit our habits is not a great design. So, my first goal is to understand my space before I overload it. And I say that knowing full well that I've probably already overloaded it, but growth is a journey. The second idea I'm using is stacking functions. In permaculture, a strong design element usually does more than one job. So, on a patio where space is limited, I need plants and tools to earn their place. A marigold is not just pretty, it can bring color, attract pollinators, support beneficial insects, and help create a fuller garden environment. Herbs are not just for cooking, they can provide fragrance, flowers, insect activity, texture, and in some cases, pest confusion. A cage or trellis is not just support, it can help a plant grow vertically, improve airflow, save floor space, and make harvesting easier. This is one of the most useful small space gardening ideas. When space is limited, choose things that do more than one thing. The third idea is capturing and using resources. For me, the biggest resource question is water. Containers dry out faster than in ground beds, so grow bags can dry out even faster because they breathe so well, which is great for roots, but during hot weather, it can turn watering into a part time job. So this season, I'm testing a few things. I'm using self watering inserts in some grow bags. I'm trying Oyas to slowly release water near the root zone. I'm paying attention to mulch and soil mix, container size, and how often different plants actually need water. The goal is not to never water. The goal is to design a system that gives the plants more consistency and gives me fewer moments of standing outside, like, wait, didn't I just water you? The fourth idea is soil building. And this one gets interesting in containers because container soil is not the same as in ground soil. In the ground, soil is connected to a much larger ecosystem. In containers, we're creating a smaller root environment from scratch. So I'm thinking about how to build a mix that drains well, holds enough moisture, supports roots, and gives plants access to nutrients over time. That means compost matters, organic matter matters, aeration matters, and because containers are more limited, I'll need to keep paying attention throughout the season. This is where I think beginner gardeners sometimes get discouraged. We put a plant in a pot, it struggles, and we assume we're bad at gardening. But often the issue is the system around the plant. The container might be too small or the soil too compacted. The water is inconsistent. The nutrients are depleted. The sun might be wrong. Permaculture helps me zoom out and ask, what is the system doing and what does this plant actually need? The fifth idea is supporting life beyond just the plants I want to harvest. I want this patio to grow food, yes, but I also want it to support pollinators, beneficial insects, soil life, and my own nervous system, if we're being honest. So I'm growing flowers alongside vegetables. I'm keeping herbs in the mix. I'm trying to create layers, scent, color, and habitat, even in a small way, because a garden does not have to be huge to become more alive. Even a few containers can change the way a space feels. Even a small patch of flowers can bring in bees. A pot of basil can make us feel like we have our lives together for maybe a few minutes, and sometimes that's enough. So, this season, the Patio Permaculture Project is going to focus on a few practical questions. Can I grow meaningful food in containers? Can I keep grow bags watered without losing it? Can flowers and herbs help make the patio more resilient? Can I build better soil in raised beds and containers over time? Can I make this space productive and beautiful? Can I design a garden that supports my real life instead of becoming another thing I feel behind on? And maybe, most importantly, can I use this tiny space to learn skills that I can carry with me into a bigger garden one day? That's the real project, not perfection, but practice. So, can permaculture work in a small space patio garden? My answer right now is yes. If we stop thinking of permaculture as a final aesthetic and start thinking of it as a design lens, we may not be able to do everything. I may not have land or chickens or fruit trees or a pond or massive compost system, but I can observe my space. I can choose plants with multiple functions and care about soil, capture resources, reduce waste, support pollinators, and design around my actual habits. And you can start building a garden that works with your life, not against it. And that counts. That is real gardening. So if you're also growing in a small space, subscribe and follow along with the Patio Permaculture Project. I'll be documenting what I'm planting, what works, what fails, what I learn, and how this little patio changes over the season. And leave a comment telling me what kind of space you're growing in: a patio, balcony, backyard, windowsill, indoor jungle, or still dreaming. Because around here, we are starting small, staying curious, and growing anyway.